10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
Hopefully your day has been as beautiful as we have experienced down in the southeastern U.S. And I'm pretty.
You.
Greetings, good evening, and howdy, friends. Welcome to the Shooters Gallery on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. From the ever-evolving Studio One, which will be undergoing a facelift this coming Sunday before Beyond Ringside Live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, everything's getting moved around, and the next sound you hear will be a laptop being thrown out the window, because I can. Replacement will be provided by TigerDirect.com. I'm going to a desktop model this time. Fast Eddie Layne over here, welcoming in tag team partner from the Peachstate, and I'm not calling him Sugar Shane, Shane Noles.
Oh.
Shades of Eric Bischoff. I'm mad, but not better than ever.
Welcoming in tag team partner, the president of wrestling, Phil Stamper.
It's funny you say that because Eric Bischoff is back doing his own Facebook Live podcast vlog thingy.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with the thing about Facebook Live being a podcast.
Vlog.
Okay, we'll go with that one. Which still, the lexicon has been prostituted so heavily. I lost faith. First off, thank you to everybody for tuning in this evening. Welcome into, whether you're on BeyondRingside.com, ProWrestlingRadio.net, the TuneIn mobile app, Beyond Ringside's radio app, ProWrestlingRadio.net player. For everybody who's been trying to figure this thing out with Apple, go to ProWrestlingRadio.net. The player is at the top of the page. Press the little triangle pointing to the right. It will play. Even if you're on PC, it'll play. If you're on Amazon, it'll play. Trust me. Like I said, if you're Amazon and Android products, go to your local Play Store and download the Beyond Ringside Radio app, please. Thank you. And you can also find us all the way across the board, including BlackBerry, on the TuneIn mobile app. Beyond Ringside Radio. Just look us up. Finishing up the totally useless point that I was throwing out there to lead. I lost faith in our lexicon when, out of the clear blue and for no reason whatsoever, everything from Funkin' Wagnalls to the Urban Dictionary included D-U-H as a word. When they recognized that as a word, the only thing that went through my mind, yeah, even it stuttered when it happened.
Sure.
God help me. I was about to break out into a rap there for a second.
It's like, you lose. Okay. Wiki. But first off, I had to try to throw something out there a little bit because I didn't want to start off with this, but I'm going to go ahead and make this tag part 2. Of course, I feel safe in saying that on behalf of the entire station and the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, that we extend our humblest condolences and hopes for peace in heart and spirit right now to the families of Bruno Sammartino and number 1 Paul Jones. Both of whom left us over the last 48, and, two very prolific, and that's an understatement, individuals in the world and in the annals of professional wrestling. That's A-N-N-A-L-S. I'm not being a smartass. But I know that, for me personally, Paul Jones, in-ring manager, all of the above, tremendous personality, sometimes tried a little bit too hard, but was still awesome and fun to watch and fun to listen to. And, Bruno Sammartino lived up to the moniker, the living legend, all the way across the board. For me personally, I was extraordinarily ecstatic when the bridges were rebuilt. The fence was, torn down, so to speak. And Bruno, Vince, and the WWE were able to get everything full scale back on track in recent history. But it's one of those where you lose two very revered individuals in any industry. And I know, it's been relatively quiet for the most part in a lot of ways as far as celebrity passings and superstar passings in 2018 that I know of. Of course, I've been out of the loop on a lot of things. So a lot of people are looking at the speakers right now are going, really, where the hell have you been? But like I said,
I was kind of wondering that myself.
No, there's been a couple that we've that have really gotten me, but I haven't really said that much about them. And there's some, as the time goes on, that I'll probably talk about a little bit later. But like I said, and gentlemen, I'll open up the floor in traditional directions if there's something you'd like to add to it. But like I said, for me personally and me and my house, and of course I will say once again on behalf of the entire station and network, are definitely thoughts. And the reason why I say, because even if you're not a religious individual, which that's your prerogative and that's your choice, we can all hope that the families and inner circle of friends can find peace in their hearts and spirits during a time like this. So that's why I offer it up that way. Personally, I offer up a silent prayer for both families and circles, and that is the way that I personally believe. So, like I said, but everybody has their own way of doing things. Shane, anything you want to add?
Yeah, certainly I knew Paul Jones more throughout my wrestling following pro wrestling. I mean, Paul Jones's Army, the collection of people he had in the NWA, one of my fondest memories was him against Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. He had to actually get in the ring with him, and a lot of people at the time didn't realize Paul Jones had been a worker. To Bruno Sammartino, I think as much as Flair was over in Charlotte, Jerry Lawler in Memphis, Bruno Sammartino in MSG in New York, the sellouts he did and the business he did, and my God, with the melting pot of ethnicities in the Big Apple, Bruno Sammartino was larger than life. That moniker, the living legend, is so true. And what a kind man. And I echo your sentiments, Eddie. Even more so than, say, making peace with, Lanny Poffo on behalf of Randy Savage or the Ultimate Warrior or Goldberg. Bruno Sammartino was a guy I never thought I'd truly see inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And kudos to Paul Levesque for making that happen in 2013, because I remember what a shock it was. I was like, Bruno Sammartino is going to be on WWE programming. And, they brought him in the fold to do some interviews and whatnot. I think one thing that always stood out to me about Bruno was his commitment to conditioning. I mean, even at 77, 78 years old, he looked like he could handle himself.
Yeah.
In Augusta. And, you see Arnold Schwarzenegger when he inducted him into the Hall of Fame talking about, when I came over here to the States, the physique and conditioning of one Bruno Sammartino was somebody like a Charles Atlas, that he wanted to duplicate. You think about some of the stuff with Stasiak and Koloff, but I mean, for me, something I definitely remember as a youngster was the feud with Larry Zbyszko.
Yep.
That drew such a good crowd at Shea Stadium. Bruno, it's funny, I just watched WrestleMania 1 on the network a couple of weeks ago when Johnny Valiant passed. And, it was him managing Brutus Beefcake against David Sammartino with Bruno. And my God, when Bruno hit the ring and threw a flurry of punches, I mean, you would have thought it was 1972 all over again. I mean, he was just so huge. And, we often have passings in pro wrestling, but I'll just go out on a personal limb here. I think anybody that doesn't have Bruno Sammartino in their top 10, at least somewhere, it's all subjective of what you think number 1 through 5 is. But he's not somewhere in your 6 through 10. I think you need to throw something in your Google machine and do a history list.
Amen. Philip?
I don't even know how to come near that. Bruno meant so much to a lot of people. I was ridiculously fortunate years ago to go to an independent wrestling event up near Pittsburgh, and here's Bruno Sammartino. And at that point in my life, because he had been off of WWE television, certainly I knew who he was, but I was like, wow, I never thought in my life I would see him in person, interact with him for a moment. And then, now to look at just a couple years ago, here he was on WWE television. back, and to see the reverence that so many people had for him. I mean, I knew it, but then you could actually articulate it. You could actually see it from such a larger scale, and the outpouring of the response to his passing has been absolutely tremendous. And as much as sometimes I think all of us have our moments where we get very frustrated with professional wrestling, at the same time, all of us look at it in a way that we're a family. We are together. And so to see just that people do have the respect for the person and respect for the accomplishment just means something very special to me.
And Shane brought up the factor of the top tens, and people talk about their respective Mount Rushmores. And to me, as far as champions in the world of professional wrestling, Bruno is on that Mount Rushmore as far as champions go, because what he meant to the industry and what he meant to the Worldwide Wrestling Federation was, and you make the reference to the consecutive sellouts at Madison Square Garden, the sellout at Shea Stadium, which, you look at today for WrestleMania, 79,000, over 100,000 at AT&T Stadium. But this was when Bruno did Shea. That was long before cable, and definitely a long time before the internet too. When you had situations like that, it's kind of like when the NWA and Mid-South would team up at the Superdome in New Orleans. It's like crowds that big were unheard of in our industry. I mean, granted, of course, we're talking about Boston and Shea Stadium. That's a phenomenal venue. But you talk about what they were able to do there. MSG sell out 17,000, 18,000. No prob. It's New York. And you've got a lot of people looking for something to do on a Saturday or Sunday night. And Worldwide Wrestling Federation action with Bruno Sammartino or Superstar Billy Graham or Bob Backlund. Yeah. That's why it's like, I agree. Most people who genuinely understand the concept of what champions mean to our industry definitely have to have Bruno in that top 10. Like I said, and I agree, it's all subjective. Everybody has their own, because I have, on a similar note, wrestler of the number, in my opinion, best wrestler of all time, Kurt Angle. Like it, love it, hate it, that's my opinion. And I'm always open to hear what somebody, I'm saying arguably the best wrestler, period, Kurt Angle. Because he was so multifaceted and he adapted to everything so easily and fluidly. Now, in-ring performer, Shawn Michaels. But he's also, right now, there's one other person who's neck and neck with him in my book. And he's proven himself over the course of a number of different companies. And I'm going AJ Styles. But the greatest champion of all time, Ric Flair. Because of the way Flair carried himself as a champion. So, I mean, and I get criticized every once in a while for breaking it down like that. Well, how can they not be the best in-ring performer if they're not the greatest champion? There's a big difference. There's a huge difference. Well, in-ring performer versus wrestler, big difference. Whereas Kurt Angle had that moonsault off the top, he was never really known for that much flash to add to his technical expertise. And I wasn't going to go flash.
I laughed only because I caught the word you were almost about to say. My apology.
There you go. But no, but by the same token, it's kind of like you have to keep. I keep things in compartmentalized is the word I'm looking for on that. Because there is a difference in those three categories. And once I lay it out there like that, a lot of people go, well, I can see where you go like that. I may not totally agree with it, but I can see where you're going on that. So, yeah. And now that I've gone in that direction, gentlemen, anything y'all'd like to, the floor's open. Toss it on in there. Philip, as he takes mid-drink.
Right. Thank you for that. I think you nailed it on the head. That's all I got.
Shane?
31 years ago today, The Simpsons made their debut on the sketches for Tracy Ullman's show, because you had done the Nelson Muntz laugh as we were going live, and I wanted to get that out.
And that's not the easiest one to do. I mean, it's like, okay, at one point in time, a few years back, and I'm going to probably say about 5 or 6 cases of cigarettes ago, 8 or 9 cases of Jack Daniels or Crown Royal or Bacardi, and 2 or 3 very badly mishandled episodes of the flu or bronchitis. I had over 400 voices in my repertoire, but that laugh was still one of the hardest ones for me to hit, even when I was at 100%, because of the pitch. I mean, it's like, it's no problem for me to turn around, because especially nowadays with my chords the way they are, it's like I can shift over. It's like, hey, Montgomery Burns, how are things? Excellent. I mean, really, that's not that hard. Smithers. But, you know, it goes that way. Yeah, congratulations to The Simpsons on that. Once again, damn. Has it really been that long?
I know.
We old.
No, we're not. Shut up. I'm older. I will not get old. My body won't let me. Now, loaded question, considering where we're going to be 1 week from today, as far as the fact that we're going to be on the 26th, how many of us are going to take the day off and go catch the opening of that so-called little film that's being put out by Disney and Marvel? You know, I don't think anybody's really heard about this one. You know, it's I think it's called Infinity War or something like that. It's really obscure.
I know. It must be some kind of indie flick.
I mean, Shane, have you heard about this one?
This is the first I've heard of it.
Okay. I have to sit back and go, for everybody who's been jumping up and down about the fact that Black Panther has broken so many records, I have a feeling that Avengers Infinity War Part 1 is going to absolutely shatter what Panther did.
It has already has broken the record for movie pre-sales, and it has combined basically the last, I think, 10 Marvel movies together in pre-sales so far.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who said a slow burn doesn't work?
DC.
Yeah, no, they just can't make it work. To a degree now. I'm not going to get in the Marvel versus DC thing, but I'm going to sit back and say, kids, you realize Iron Man 1 came out in 2008. The build to Infinity War Part 1, 10 years in the making. See, I don't even count the I really don't count the Edward Norton Hulk in that overall MCU right now. I really don't. I'm sorry. Even though technically I guess I could, but I don't. Just like I don't really count IM2. No, I don't count Iron Man 3 as part of the overall MCU, because that was an offshoot Iron Man standalone. That was post New York and the Hole in the Sky. The whole scenario has just blown me away when I go back and look at it, because I have all the movies I'm waiting on Panther to come out on Blu-ray 4K, because I think it's gonna. That one's gonna break records too as far as first weekend sales of the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital. I have to ask this one, coming off into our native territory, so to speak. Does it really feel like Mania has been less than 2 weeks ago? Shane?
A lot has happened since then.
Philip?
It does seem like so much time has passed from everything in New Orleans to now to next week's next big pay-per-view on Friday afternoon for us.
Yeah, that's when I'm actually thinking about taking the day off. I'm not kidding. I'm not that worried. Okay, for those who know me, you know my plan for watching Infinity War. That's going to wait till Tuesday. I'm going to make it through the weekend. I'm going to sequester myself from social media. So those of you who want to get on and do spoilers on social media, you ain't going to get me. And if you text me, I'll kill you. I don't care if you live in Germany. I will hunt you down. But
what I'm trying to figure out is I am actually going to be, well, I'm going to be more in Shane's neck of the woods on Saturday the 28th, but I'm probably going to leave Thursday night to go down there. So I'm not sure when I'm going to see Infinity Wars yet.
You going to be in Georgia?
Yes, I'm going for a friend's wedding, but yes, I'll be down in Georgia.
Okay. What part? If you care to say it out loud.
Actually, I'll be closer to. I'll actually be in Tennessee. I'll be in Chattanooga.
Oh, okay.
My friend lives in very north Georgia, Dalton.
Mm-hmm. We still need to get him down here for Peachstate 10.
Very confused why you're chuckling like that. That scares me a little.
Would it be better if I'd have done that laugh?
Not really.
Okay, cool. No, and this past week, Monday and Tuesday, WWE, of course, did their Superstar Shakeup. With everything else coming into play, I have to sit back. I feel bad for the creative team at NXT. I mean, I'm sure they knew a lot of the call-ups were going to occur, but oh my God, I don't think I've ever known the NXT roster to be this depleted. This many call-ups over the course of the last couple of weeks. From the Monday and Tuesday after Mania through the Superstar Shakeup, it's kind of like, oh my, what?
Well, yes and no. I mean, of course they knew. At the same time, they're going to figure it out. They have to. Their whole job is to create the next superstars for the WWE main roster. So I think they're in a good place. They had just gone through some recent trimming. I think some of the more recent departures, though, I feel bad because I can't remember everybody's name off the top of my brain. But some of them are going on and doing the NXT loop this weekend. So the DC, Bethlehem, other place in Maryland I won't mention, circle that they're going to be doing. Those folks are going back basically for those cards, and then they're going to go back to the main roster. So I think there's still going to be some touches that you're going to see from them here and there.
Well, I've got in front of me the list of the majority of the people who went from SmackDown to Raw, and I want to go ahead and bring this one up. Upside, downside. We all know that Raw is a war zone, technically, and I'm not playing off their old school name. Because of the fact that it is so easy to get lost in the shuffle on Monday nights. Mm-hmm. And this is where, when I saw this person coming to Raw, when I heard their music hits and the bright lights lit, I'm sitting back going, "Oh God, we only know this is only going to go one way from here." And that's Bobby Roode. Roode had started to carve out his niche on SmackDown, all the way up until the time where he lost the damn title to Randy Orton, because Randy just can't lose to somebody who hadn't been there for a while. That's my only problem with Orton. So, gentlemen, I want to take a couple of these and I want to get your input, but I'm going to flip you on sides of the coin. One will take the upside as to what's the benefit this person may receive or bring to being moved over to Raw, and the other will take the downside. Is there a downside in place that could affect this individual? We didn't talk about this before show. We really didn't do show prep on this, but this is something I started thinking about this week. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Bobby Roode into play. Shane, upside, Bobby Roode to Raw.
Well, Raw being Vince's baby, first and foremost, more eyes will be, I think, on the Raw product. I think Bobby Roode, for me personally, I love it from a man that was, a long mainstay in TNA. He was called up to SmackDown. Certainly he had not went through the gamut of all the feuds and programs he certainly could have over there. But hey, leave him wanting more. That doesn't hurt in this industry. But now with Raw, I think there's the opportunity for fresh matchups. However, and this may be a recurring theme of a lot of people that you talk about being called over, it's also a chance now to get lost in the shuffle quickly. If it doesn't catch on. But I think they kind of know they have something with Bobby Roode, and I look forward to seeing how it plays out.
Phil Stamper, downside.
Downside is that he gets lost in the shuffle, that he becomes a novelty, he becomes the lesser successful Fandango. I don't think that's true of what he can bring. but at the same time, there is that risk you run with the forces of Raw.
Jinder Mahal going from SmackDown to Raw. Phil, upside.
I think the upside for Jinder is, he look at the success he did have while he was on SmackDown. Could that continue for him on the Raw side? And imagine what he would bring to the WWE brand, especially in India, if he was able to grab then the main event spot on Monday Night Raw.
Shane Noles, downside.
Being fed to Roman Reigns to get Reigns built back up to the level they want. I like Jinder Mahal on SmackDown, so to me, I actually do not like this move for him. I agree to Phil's sentiment, but I have to take the downside here. As much as I think Bobby Roode could get lost in the shuffle, I think Jinder Mahal, if it doesn't play right, he could be lower mid-card.
I'm inclined to agree with that one also, because Jinder had started to carve out his niche. And once again, lo and behold, Randy Orton, wow, what a surprise. Career killer. Not legend killer, career killer. Dude, you're supposed to put over the talent, not bury him. You're not John Cena. And even Cena put over Taker in 2 minutes and 46 seconds. But he's also been there for more than a cup of coffee. Matter of fact, I never did get your perspective on this one. We talked about it last week, Shane, so I'm going to time out for a second. Your perspective and thoughts on Taker Cena, 246 start to finish, Cena getting 2 offensive moves.
Oh, well, you know my thoughts on this. I love The Undertaker. I love the gimmick. I love how it's been protected. But I've also went on record to say it's been harder and harder to watch each and every passing year. Maybe 53 years old, coming off of hip surgery, that's the best he could do, or they knew there was no need in going in a long match a la Roman Reigns of last year. But if it was going to be 2 minutes and 46 seconds, I do question the why, unless it was just John Cena wanting to do the favors for Taker. Because, I mean, really, whether I crapped on it or not, and Lord knows I did, it was a lot of buildup. It was a lot of Cena promos. It was a lot of going to WrestleMania as a fan. And yes, I will say he stole a little thunder from Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Could you have not have had him be notified by the referee after they had both exited the ring and got out? We still had to have Cena go sprinting like a madman. But, I mean, that was a lot of buildup for a 2 minute and 46 second basically squash. So, again, unless it was just John wanting to do the favors for Taker and have him, well, there again, I say go out on a high note, but he's going to wrestle in the, quotation marks, greatest Royal Rumble ever next week in Saudi Arabia, so it's not it. It was puzzling to me, but certainly giving his health limitations and his age, again, I think that may have been the best he could do to protect him.
Loaded question of the day, and this is one I've been holding on to coming out of Mania weekend. Charlotte snaps the streak for Asuka and then turns around and loses the title after the Iconics beatdown to Carmella. Upside, downside to that whole scenario. Shane, upside.
Well, it makes Charlotte chase now, doesn't it? I mean, she can't be the queen all the time.
Philip, downside.
Well, the downside is right there. Now Carmella has a win over Charlotte Flair. Does that hurt her? At the same time, I think it hurts the fans a little bit, or the credibility of the fans. And what I mean by that is WWE is so certain about its own fandom that some people only watch Mania. That is their wrestling event of the year, and then they move on. That people can put everything that happens in Mania in one bubble, and then that's it. They don't have to exist, or nothing else has had to exist in knowledge. So basically a week later, it is a different show than what you just saw a week ago. And it'll be a different show when you watch next year's WrestleMania, because they really sometimes focus on that, because that's when they really do get their larger draws. So I do think it's a discredit to Charlotte. I don't think it's really going to hurt her. I think it does some damage to the brand that is the Women's Championship on SmackDown.
Of course, I still sit back and say the same thing now that I said a week ago, just with a different tone of voice. Carmella cashing in successfully and now being a SmackDown Women's Champion, or a champion, period. Sorry. There is no upside for that. I still say, and I went back and I rewatched WrestleMania. I swear I thought it was Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. I'm not kidding. Her hair, the makeup, all of the above. And trust me, there's going to come a point in time when wrestling fans sit back and go, we're not going to take it anymore. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. One of the ones that actually caught me a little bit off guard, Dolph Ziggler being backed up by Drew McIntyre this past Monday night on Raw. Slight surprise there. Now, I knew McIntyre would eventually get the call up. I figured he would get the call up to the Blue brand, which is where he had his most of his success was on Blue. But to come over and be side by side with Dolph Ziggler, I don't know the future plans. I don't read the spoilers. I don't get the leaks and all of the above, and I don't subscribe to any newsletters. Sorry, not going to happen. But I almost have to wonder if this is going to be the beginning of a faction centered around Ziggler. To which, if we go with that mentality, but just the overall presence right now, the move of Dolph and the call-up of Drew. Who did I go to for upside last time?
Shane.
Okay. Phil, upside.
I think there's nothing but an upside here. I think this can really feature Dolph more prominently. I think him aligning with Drew McIntyre, like you said, because he had already had an established feature previously. I mean, we're talking years ago previously on SmackDown, that now they get to expand on Raw. There are some of that audience that doesn't remember Drew McIntyre, so it is a bit of a fresh slate for him, and that really it's just the popularity of Dolph that's going to help push him for up front at the beginning. And then I think from there it's just going to be open field. And now you have two very highly successful athletes who are now going to be aligned together, whether or not they're going to be a tag team or that they're just sort of for right now at least a two-man stable. I think that's yet to be seen.
I'm going to disagree with the use of the word. There is no stable involved. There are no flies buzzing around him.
Faction?
Okay, I'll go there. It's always been my favorite comeback when somebody says stable. It's like, first off, I don't see any flies and I don't see big steaming mounds of horse caca.
I'm actually going to ask an entomology question, so
yes.
Bear with me for this moment.
Sure.
Is the reason in wrestling nomenclature we use the term stable is because it's the 4 horsemen and horses reside in a stable?
That could be a logistical possibility. And by the way, by the same token, that term was actually used before the horsemen were in a
And that's what I thought. That's why I was like, I really don't know if this is the truth.
Actually, I do believe, I remember the Tennessee stud Ron Fuller actually having the stud stable.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and then of course from there you're also talking about a wildlife equestrian style situation, so you can bring stable into play.
Did I just find out the reason there was a horseman is because people took stable and went, wait a minute, what's in a stable? Horseman. Ah!
I think it was kind of flipped because the fact that they were always referred to as the thoroughbreds.
Okay, that's true too.
They called themselves the thoroughbreds of the pro wrestling industry. So it's kind of...
Could I totally lie right now and say, yes, the nomenclature is such because of the 4 horsemen?
It works for me. I'm going to give you both upside for this one because I really don't see a damn downside. But if there is one, I would like to hear it. And Shane, I'll start with you on this one. Miz bouncing from Raw back to the Blue brand.
You want a downside?
Upside, downside. Take your pick.
Well, I mean, upside, we're going to get the long-awaited, feud with Daniel Bryan, which I think is over 2 years in the making, which I think people actually want to see. I'm going to take the downside on this, too, because I really thought, my gosh, in the last 3 to 4 months, The Miz was truly establishing himself on Raw with The Miz Tourage. I mean, they made almost important characters out of Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel around them. I thought they had a neat niche. They were over with the crowd, and remains to be seen how that's going to go over on the blue end.
Philip?
Honestly, I mean, I was putting some mental cash reserve on the fact that I think The Miz was going to be put into the main event this year. And by main event, I mean he's been really one of the most talked about WWE superstars for the last 2 years. Some of that has to do with his rivalry with Daniel Bryan. If you think about it, Daniel Bryan was in a non-wrestling role as a wrestling personality, and for them to be able to kind of keep that going says a lot about sort of everybody involved, especially The Miz. I think The Miz has sort of trumped over his own negative press, if you will. And I really was thinking, okay, you know, this is going to be his year. You know, you take a good year to really establish him that now he's a main event player. And I don't know, part of me feels like that got derailed. Part of me feels like him going to SmackDown is the wrong choice for him. That it, you know, for the momentary feud with Daniel Bryan, excellent, great, wonderful, perfect, terrific. For the long-term success on what to do next, I think it's just going to take that much longer. If they want to put him back into the main event picture, it's going to take him that much longer.
My main downside has been, I echo Shane, because this is the one thing that I've been riding high on a cloud for. Because on the microphone and getting a crowd in place, and this man can flip a crowd in a heartbeat. Heel face, tweener, all of the above. And a hero, yay. Protagonist, antagonist, whatever the hell you want to use. Miz had been able to run a crowd. Not work a crowd, but run them. If situation called for it, and you wanted to do the worked shoot, like I said, my favorite deal was the whole thing with Cena. That's why when Cena and Nikki went over, I almost cried. It's like, no. It served no purpose for John Cena and Nikki Bella to go over, other than the fact that it gave John Cena time to really just screw up and propose in public. And now the story's there's a side story going around that Nikki's the one who ended the engagement. Who cares? It's going to be on television, and I'm not going to watch the show. I have not watched the first episode of Total Bellas or Total Divas or Total Dimwits or whatever. Hookers Are Us. I'm not watching that crap. Sorry. I'm not in their demo anyway, and I don't care. But to bring Miz back to SmackDown. Now, granted, it's going to be a good initial program for Daniel Bryan because, you know, Miz is going to work smart, and Daniel's going to have to continue to work smart as well. I mean, he's looked good in his previous couple of outings, including Mania. But I don't know if I'd have sacrificed what Miz has been able to do for a crowd, because Daniel Bryan is so incredibly over as a protagonistic character, a babyface, whatever, fan favorite, to where it's definitely going to put Miz back in that position where no matter what he says, he's going to get booed. Now, granted, by the clinical definition of the term heel or villain, that's what you want. But by the same token, I also want to be entertained, and Miz has been damn entertaining over the last couple of years. Let's look at it. Apparently, the Brotherhood go bye-bye in more than one way. 13 before the top of the hour on this episode of the Shooter's Gallery. Fast Eddie Layne, Shane Noles, Phil Stamper on this Thursday night edition. Jeff Hardy, as U.S. champion, goes from Raw to SmackDown. Upside, downside? Phil, upside.
Upside, it takes them away from what's happening with Matt without them now also having to drag Jeff into that gimmick. Not saying he's bad at it, not saying anything about anything. It's really about if he establishes his own foothold, you know, that's going to better propel him. And then if later they decide to change him, I just think he could be in a better position. Plus, it also avoids any negative publicity that might happen once he goes to court for his, I can't remember if it's DUI or DWI.
You just took my downside right out from under me. Shane, downside.
I don't feel like he ever really got his proper chance back on Raw. I mean, I know he has certainly throughout his career, but in the current standing, he was in as a tag. He got hurt. legal problems, and now he's on the blue brand.
Are they thinking they can drop him off the radar that much faster on the blue brand? Open question.
It's just a separate radar. That's just really how I think of it. That there'll be a little bit of separation, especially if they have some other plan in motion for Matt.
You know, and I'm looking at the overall list of the new arrivals from Raw to SmackDown. Like I said, we talked about Miz, of course, Jeff Hardy, and I'm looking at, and this is one where I see no downside whatsoever. So, gentlemen, I'll give you both an upside for this one. Samoa Joe going from red to blue. Shane?
Well, I mean, again, him calling out Reigns the last couple of weeks and the way it was handled, I thought Joe came across as one of the biggest baby faces in the company, resonating with the Raw brand, and all of a sudden you're on SmackDown. And his first promo is still like against Reigns, but now upside, I think Joe can be a tremendous star on SmackDown, and salivating at matchups with AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, and the like. So I think it's pretty cool.
Philip?
The part of me that's very happy about this is the part of me that knows that we're going to see Joe Daniel Bryan, Joe AJ Styles, maybe Joe Shinsuke. But the downside is, I think Joe...
Randy Orton.
You know what? I don't think that would be a bad match. I could see that working well. If things work well together. I don't know. Part of me feels it could be a good position, but then there is that negative, because I felt like he got lost a little bit in that shuffle of Raw. Yes, there were some injuries that didn't help him. At the same time, where are they going to take him? And now when you look at the blue brand as a whole, wow, there is some decent talent on that whole mix of that show. Where are they going to go? And is it that he's just going to still take pot shots at the occasional the occasional guy who walks through the door? If there's any benefit, it is the fact that it seems like on SmackDown there's a little bit more freedom to let the crowd decide where they want you. If they like you, oh, guess what? You're a face. If they don't like you, guess what? You're a heel. And it seems that they like him, instead of trying to force down sort of being the I don't like Roman Reigns, I'm going to be a heel for the company when the fans are cheering me for trying to take down the guy who really is the number one heel in the company that the company thinks is the number one babyface. You separate him. You put him on two different sides. He can be that guy on SmackDown, still work this event with Roman Reigns, and then the next Tuesday turn around and punch AJ Styles in the face. I think it could work in the long run for Samoa Joe.
Did you feel, and by the way, friends, at Beyond Ringside on Twitter, please feel free, chime in. Love to find out what you've got on your mind. I don't think I asked this last week, and I've been meaning to. So now is just as good a time. How much of a slap in the face did it feel like after WrestleMania, when everything else was publicized about the Greatest Royal Rumble and the WWE Championship being defended in the cage, Lesnar defending against Reigns? Another Chapter 93. Did you feel like you had just been slapped in the face when you saw this news break? Phil.
Say that again? You lost me for a second.
Okay. After Mania, Lesnar goes over. You hear about the hullabaloo about Lesnar allegedly throwing the belt at Vince, having the shouting match, and then all of a sudden you get the publicity note that Greatest Royal Rumble coming up from Saudi Arabia. It has been signed that Lesnar will defend against Reigns inside a steel cage.
To be honest, I thought that was decided before WrestleMania for some reason, or at least I had that in my brain that was moving forward. So I don't know why I thought that, because it doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have known that in advance. But I don't know. I don't put much stock into that. I think if Vince really had an issue with somebody, that person would not be there anymore. And for any reason. I think there's plenty of ways they could have worked around it. Whatever happened in the back, we weren't there. We don't know. It's so much speculation. It's Vince yelled at Brock. Brock was mad at something and threw the belt at Vince. Who knows? Who honestly knows what happened?
Shane?
No, I didn't feel like it was a slap in the face. Now, going back again to that old format, if I had spent $65, $70 on it, you're going to follow back up. But again, you probably have the network if you're going to spend $75, hopefully. I didn't feel like it was a slap in the face. I feel like calling it the greatest Royal Rumble ever, when I feel like that already took place at the Knickerbocker Arena in 1992, that's a slap in the face. Just saying.
Yeah, if I'd paid $69, $79 for the WrestleMania pay-per-view and then all of a sudden come to find out it's going to be defended in a cage in Saudi Arabia, then what the hell did we just have the match for? They could have gone ahead and transferred the belt and then used the cage for the rematch.
And that's the interesting thing of this for me, is that that's not how they set it up. That they could have teased it that way, that things have gotten so out of hand, and that they can't trust it when Reigns is there, separated from Brock Lesnar. It never works. Brock is always attacking, never relenting. Finally, let's just get it out in a cage. But they're not telling that story, so I don't really know what they're gonna go with. I don't know. I actually can't really see this one. And you know what? For a little bit, it kind of interests me from that perspective. I don't think the match is going to be any better than what we saw in Mania. But generally, I'm interested in what they might do next.
Actually, I'll throw this one out there. The one that has me kind of sit back scratching my head is like, after the ladies' match, which took place in the UAE a few months back, when I heard about the Saudi Arabia show, I'm sitting back going, okay, how many of the ladies are going to make this trip over and how many are going to be on the card? Well, let's see. I don't know how many going to make the trip. How many are on the card? None. Zero, zilch, nada. No ladies matches.
We've done such a big deal over the course of the first 4 months of the year of the first women this, the first women this, and it comes time for the greatest Royal Rumble ever. You're nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I know. But by the same token, this is a bought show.
Right.
Tell me this isn't a bought show and I'll prove it.
And what's interesting is on the, I don't know, I'm personally not offended on the aspect of what they're doing as a business, that unfortunately they can't have women because it's the rules of that country. And if you want to be able to perform that, unfortunately that's the rules of that country. And behind the scenes working for different independent companies, I've been there when the venue says, yes, we're okay with you, but not this one particular person.
Right.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward. It's business. And I hate to say that, that's not disrespectful to women in my eyes from a company standpoint. I think it's disrespectful for the country to take that stance. I don't live in that country. I don't represent that country. I can have my personal opinion and thoughts about, what the hell, but I don't live there, and I'm not a member of a society that can change that opinion.
Shane, follow up?
Nothing to follow.
I sit back and I'll say this one all over again. I've had some fun with this particular topic because of the fact, and I think I actually did bring this up last week on the show. I do not fault another country for having their own guidelines, their own rules, and their own regulations, their own laws. We have, and this is the part that gets me in trouble every time, so folks, listen very closely and let me finish the sentence. We live a very charmed life in the United States of America. We enjoy certain freedoms. Now, we can go back to the Jeff Bridges thing from Newsroom and have fun with that if you really want to. 270 countries, 196 of them have freedom. But what kind of freedom? There's some countries, if certain marches had taken place, you'd have been run over by a tank. Here, you get run over by the media or praised by them, depending on who you are. I don't expect another government to kowtow to the whims and the practices we utilize in the United States. My view and standpoint is not that myopic. And for me to even consider the fact that they need to change to suit us is a complete taradiddle. It's nonsense. Give you everybody a chance to look up the word taradiddle just to be on the safe side. That's been my word for quite a while. I just don't use it as much as I used to. So, do I tear down Saudi Arabia for the fact that the ladies are not going to be able to perform? No. They have their rules. But they also have things in place that I'm not a big fan of. Their perspectives on certain people. Period. I'm going to leave it at that. So that's where it just makes me thankful all over again that I live where I live. Are we the greatest country on the planet anymore? Thank you, Jeff. No. Are we one of? Yes. Social media is not helping with this case, however, kids.
And that's the thing. And well, actually, as I was about to say this, I don't know. I don't know Saudi Arabia's social media of choice. Guess what? Guess what, America? Twitter is not everywhere. Facebook is not everywhere. Other countries have other platforms. So what we're saying may not impact their decisions as a country because their citizenship isn't seeing it, and their cultural perspective is very different. And so I'm mixed again. And I'm trying to say something without saying something too.
I know. I can tell.
A company I have worked for in the past, one day, literally almost overnight, they noticed that their clips involving female wrestlers skyrocketed. And they were like, I don't, this was through YouTube. And they're like, I don't understand what happened. And so they went through their analytics and found that the views were all coming from the Middle East. And for some reason, YouTube suddenly became a thing. And this was about maybe 2 years ago. And that pornography in the Middle East and in that culture is very not accepted.
Exactly.
Female in sports competition, that's acceptable.
Well, there is a difference between sports and sports entertainment. And this is the one thing that I'm going to jump on where people have fun if you want to at Beyond Ringside on Twitter. Look at some of the outfits that are worn by some of the women in WWE. I'm sorry. There's some of those outfits that are classified technically as indecent. Like it, love it, hate it, it's true. I am not a prude by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a 52-year-old heterosexual male. Believe me, I enjoy looking at naked women. I will never step down away from that. But the fact of the matter is, there are some outfits that are worn on Monday, Tuesday, and NXT that are technically classified as indecent by certain community standards. And the Middle East would probably be at pretty much the top of that list.
And before we think, American culture that, oh, look at these other places, we have to look at how, I have to say it, that's how prudish we can be. I mean, not too long ago, WWE was telling all the women they couldn't wear two-piece costumes because, or gear, that it had to be one piece because that was more culturally appropriate.
Open space. Shane, feel free to jump in.
Oh, I agree with you. There's some stuff that is worn weekly that would not pass some of those guidelines.
I mean, I thought it was humorous that Ronda Rousey, of all people, decided to go with the high rise as far as her trunks go. And then I look at, Mandy Rose? In other words, visual Trish Stratus 2.0.
Ooh.
And, well, look, I have to go back, and I wish I could find this soundbite. I would love to get in touch with Taylor Wilde and get her to say this on air for me to have. Oh, great. Just what we need. Another bottle blonde with fake boobs. look, once again, there ain't nothing wrong with it, but by the same token, when you're banking everything and considering the fact that I've seen bikinis in Panama City Beach that cover more, I mean, really, kids, come on.
You've seen more cotton at the top of an aspirin bottle.
Thank you. Beautifully done.
Jay Hickman for that one.
Beautifully done. But yeah, I mean, I'm still going to watch the show, and I'm going to watch it with the same intent that I would watch if the women were performing. And I'm pretty sure that some of the ladies will be there. Now, if you remember the UAE show, Sasha Banks did perform there. I mean, I'm trying to remember who she worked, but both of the ladies who were involved in that matchup were actually in full body gear. The only thing exposed technically were hands and face, head. They were high-rise collars. I'm sitting back going, look, those outfits look absolutely killer, and they covered what they needed to cover, everything, except for the hands and the neck up. I had no problem with those outfits. I thought they were tastefully done. Loud as hell, but tastefully done. Was that a oxymoron just threw out there? Who cares? Before we go to the top of the hour, and for those who know the show, what I do is we will go ahead and treat this as a separate hour entity because the fact that normally the first hour will go up on YouTube and Facebook video. I don't run both hours on the video formats. So we're going to do our respective closing credits and shameless plugs in just a second. But as for, and I'm, by the way, for the record, real quick, before I go any further, gentlemen, last word on the previous topic about the social matters and blah, 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 blah. You know what I meant. Phil, anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I'm good.
Shane?
Ditto.
Okay. Before we hit those credits, though, normally we will go ahead and try to throw one out. And if you know what I mean, I'm not talking about the drunk at the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting back and making a very quick reference to, and I'm probably catching him off guard, our resident trivia master, courtesy of Useless Trivia, which is in effect on, I believe, 3 nights a week. Shane, do you have one ready to play?
Just one. For now. Correct?
We'll do more in the next hour.
I was making sure. Okay, let's go with a food question to kick these off. As always, this is a sample of questions you'll find at Useless Trivia throughout the week. Food question, introduced in 1972 and now available in many varieties. What was the first nationwide breakfast item?
Carnation Instant Breakfast.
Incorrect.
Philip?
Cereal?
Incorrect. Introduced in 1972 and now available today in many varieties. Maybe I should steer it this way. What was the first nationwide breakfast sandwich?
Oh, sandwich.
Oh.
Go ahead, Phil.
You mean just branded in a particular way or just as a sandwich?
Yes, it's a particular by a company. Yeah.
I want to say like a McMuffin.
That was the late 70s.
Correct.
What?
1972.
Oh, I thought you said 62. I swear I thought
I'm sorry, 1972.
I thought you said 62. I was going to go Egg McMuffin, but I figured no, that was 70s. Okay, got one by me. Shoot to kill. Ask questions later. Whatever happened to the freak Rob Terry?
I don't know.
I haven't seen him lately. I'm sitting here watching. While we're doing the show, I'm also watching, which is my Thursday habit, Pluto TV. And it's a app which is available for Roku and some other devices. And lo and behold, they are showing classic episodes of Impact. Impact has a channel on there which shows even some stuff from 2018. And one of the characters I'm looking up at the screen is like, why haven't I seen Rob Terry lately? Damn, where'd he disappear to? Okay, Phil's got a 1-0 lead. We will settle that after the top of the hour. So, folks, they're stuck in there. I don't even know what that means.
I didn't think in any way that I was going to be right, to be honest.
See, like I said, I misheard the year, and that's why I said it's like, but I knew the McMuffin was the 70s. I thought it was later than 72, but I'd have gone with it anyway. But from that vantage point, tell you what. Oh, great. The pinball machine's going off again. Let's go ahead and take it to the top of the hour, so to speak, wrapping up hour number 1. So, gentlemen, I'll give you all a chance to do personal and professional shameless plugs, and we're going to do full shameless during the second hour, though, but because we all have upcoming appearances. Shane, personal plugs?
Sure. Useless Trivia takes place Monday night. And this is the easy part, folks. The name of the restaurant doesn't change. They've got them in 2 states now. So, Loco Mex Restaurant, Monday nights at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 Eastern. Tuesday nights, Loco Mex in Jacksonville. That is also the location for Mondays. 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern for Taco Tuesday. Dollar Tacos and Dollar House Beer. Wednesdays over in Bowden, Georgia, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Same format. I do have different questions, and I am proud to say there have been some teams that have made the road trip from Jacksonville to Bowden. It's about a 50-minute drive that are playing on multiple nights, so that makes me have to keep the questions fresh, no cheating, and using the same game, different nights, different locations. But come on out, eat, drink, and think with us. First, second, and third place every week, guaranteed house cash gift cards you can use to cover that food and bar tab.
Social media?
I'm on there. Shane Noles on Facebook as well as Snapchat and Instagram. Also on Twitter. And Eddie, I have actually tweeted a few times this year. Stop the presses if they still do that. I may be doing it even more.
And folks, real quick, don't forget you will be able to catch Shane this coming Saturday night in Villa Rica, Georgia, under the banner of Peachstate Wrestling Alliance. For those of you who will be sticking around for hour number 2, we're going to cover that card in just a few minutes. Phil Stamper, shameless plugs.
I'm sure we're going to get into when we get into the next hour, but I have a lot of things coming up with MCW and Revolver. And Revolver's announcing big things with Impact, so there's going to be some news coming out about that soon. Very excited about that. I'm at that point where there's a couple projects that are in the mix, and I kind of have to wait, but I'm hopeful to be able to share some more information with you soon.
Social.
Of course, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Snapchat at PS Phenom. That's PSPHENOM, and on Facebook at Desk of Phil Stamper.
And real quick, at Beyond Ringside on Twitter, Facebook.com/Beyond Ringside Live, BeyondRingside.com, and ProWrestlingRadio.net are home. You can find me tomorrow night. That is going to be April 20th at Buffalo Wild Wings in Alabaster, Alabama. Friday night karaoke starts at 9 o'clock p.m., goes until last call and beyond. Normally on Saturday, I would be with Jake's Soul Food Cafe in McCalla, Alabama, right off exit 1 on 459, Interstate 459. 7:30 p.m. Start time for Saturday night karaoke and the karaoke raffle. Special thank you to good friend of the family, Ben Catchings from Ben Jammin Productions. He'll be sitting in for me this coming Saturday because I will be, public breaking news, back with Peachstate Wrestling Alliance this coming Saturday night in Villa Rica, Georgia. Back behind the microphone, genuinely looking forward to the Dream Maker Invitational, and we're going to cover that in the next hour. Folks, hour number 1 of the books for everybody catching us on the video side for YouTube and everything else. Check it out. Podomatic, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. You can find replays all the way across the board. And if it's during the same week of April 19th, that means the show is in replay on both stations through .com and ProWrestlingRadio.net. Hang tight. And by the way, Ted Guinness is out this week. I think he's off watching a baseball game somewhere after the alien invasion from yesterday. Sorry about that, Ted. Meant to say that sooner. For Phil Stamper, Shane Noles, I am Fast Eddie Layne. Hour 1 of the books. Hour 2 kicks off in just a moment. This is the Shooters Gallery on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
This is the voice of excellence at Excellent Professional Wrestling at Not the Tool Man, Tim Taylor. Usually I'm locked into Excellent Professional Wrestling, but now you're locked in to Beyond Ringside.